CISO Choice Awards Vendor Recognition with Richard Stiennon.
I'm very pleased to welcome SDG TruOps to this short description of what they do. SDG TruOps is a winner of a CISO's Choice Award. Congratulations. And today they are represented by Ajay Gupta, who's founder and CEO of first SDG and then TruOps, and also Jeff So, who is the VP of Product for TruOps. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, Ajay, I guess it's best to turn to you and give us the elevator pitch for TruOps and the relationship with SDG, of course.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, SDG and TruOps are two separate firms, but part of the same sort of DNA, if you will. SDG is a services firm that's been around a couple of decades, and in our experience at SDG as systems integrators, we work with security and policy and GRC compliance, et cetera, soon after SOX became a thing after the Enron disaster. And as we worked in policy and compliance for a number of years, we thought to ourselves, there's got to be a better way to do that. And out of those experiences was born the concept of TruOps, where we really wanted to build a platform that would allow security leaders to integrate different silos within their organization, bring various security and policy data together, be in a position to sort of compare the two, figure out where the risks existed within the organization, and provide them a way to mitigate those risks in as quick a time as possible. So that's really the purpose and the vision of TruOps, and that's what we're striving to build.
Got it. Maybe Jeff would be the right person to describe the TruOps product in more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. So TruOps is a GRC SaaS solution that provides a bird's eye view into your security and compliance landscape. It's a multi-tenant solution that allows for risk roll-up strategies for a lot of organizations with huge business units or portfolio companies to take all of their integrated security tech stack and bring that into TruOps to have almost a risk operations center to operationalize their risk strategy management programs.
Awesome. So when you talk about all those different security tools that an organization would have, what would it be reporting into the TruOps platform?
Yeah. So if you look at a lot of average enterprise CISO, they have anywhere from 50 to 80 security tools, often point solutions. From a GRC point of view, we're bringing in things like your IT assets, your threat and vulnerability management programs, identity and access, all the way to things that we're looking at now, third-party risks, XDRs, and seeing how we could integrate all those solutions to provide that unified visibility for CISOs that have actionable insight into basically simply identifying risk and mitigating it before letting it fester too long.
Wow, it's a huge scope. So how do you define risk, right? The CISO's got their own metrics that they've devised. Are you giving them metrics to say, hey, there's a risk, vulnerability, et cetera?
Yeah. So that's one of the tricky things in GRC is that every organization is so unique with their own processes and what matters to them from a KPI and their board, right? So we provide a lot of out-of-box templates in terms of dashboards and reports, but what we've done is actually built in almost like a Power BI or Tableau directly into our solution. So as you integrate solutions, you could just custom build your ad hoc dashboard reports.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Ajay, do you have any examples of how you turn things around at companies that opted in for TruOps?
Yeah, so our first client for TruOps happened to be a fairly large, a $40 billion large complex bank. And their challenge was they were doing some risk assessments and security assessments on global scale across 14 different business units, 29 different countries, over 100,000 users. And it would take them 9 months to complete one annual assessment. And just as they were completing that assessment, and then they'd have to start all over again. And they owned what we call sort of the ERPs of GRC, some large monolithic GRC platforms. And they deployed TruOps, and they were able to shrink that timeline from 9 months to 6 weeks And we're able to essentially create in a sort of a hub and spoke environment, which is really what TruOps architecture is. The hub was HQ, the spokes were all of the business units that were going to report on these assessments. We're able to collect this information in a very short amount of time and have a very unified security, risk, and compliance posture for the organization.
Wow. So, and I was in Austin last week and met somebody who said they had a client who had deployed a vulnerability management solution, and they had 800,000 critical vulnerabilities. And I'm just wondering how that would look in a platform like yours and how they'd even start dealing with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it, you kind of have two spectrums when it comes to a security program. The most technical side, right? These are the folks running Rapid7, Tenable, Nessus, these sort of tools.
Yep.
And the GRC side, who understands the business controls, right? What is priority? What is critical? In our tool, what happens is instead of looking at the 8,000 most critical vulnerabilities, just looking at CVSS, you bring those things into our GRC. And what you're doing is you're taking the business context, identifying what are the critical assets, right? What are the critical business units or portfolio companies that we have to focus on, right? And start to prioritize from that point of view. We do integrations into things like the service desk tickets, right? The Jira, ServiceNows of the world, to bring those tickets into the automated workflow. So we fit right into the processes. And some things that we're looking at now is, can we automate the actual patching and mitigation of these findings? And so that's sort of where this business and tech kind of come together at TruOps to provide that kind of holistic, unified framework for managing risk.
And just to add to what Jeff said, Richard, it's very important to stratify vulnerabilities and control gaps within the organization. Otherwise, most organizations will be in that same situation that have tens of thousands to 800,000 incidents or alerts to look at, and how do how do you even focus on which one you're going to solve first, right? There's got to be a way to prioritize those.
Yeah. Is there a way to backtrack and do triage post incident, because vulnerabilities and the configuration issues turn into incidents eventually, and then improve the process, I guess. So, hey, this time around, we saw the data in front of us, but it got a low priority. Next time around, how do we change those priorities so we don't experience that same breach again?
Right. These incidents and issues really arise from either missing or deficient controls. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we focus on is identifying control efficacy in response to risk policy. So within TruOps, because it's not only a GRC platform, it has a GRC, all of the GRC processes are digitized and automated within TruOps. It also connects to insider threat threat management platforms, sort of like an identity and access management platform such as SailPoint. And then we also connect with products in the cybersecurity ecosystem, as Jeff pointed out earlier. So we bring all of these threat vectors together and compare those to the policy imperatives. And to identify the root cause is really identifying weak controls and then fixing those weak controls so those vulnerabilities and issues and incidents don't arise again.
Makes complete sense. So if you're identifying risks, the end user, the customer, also has a compliance requirement, and it's going to be, depending on where you are in the world, right? It'll be a NIST framework, it'll be MITRE, it'll be ISO. Do you help them align all their controls with all of the factors in each of those compliance regimes?
Yeah, so that's actually part of our deployment model and onboarding. Usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So out of box TruOps, we have about 2,000 questions that are pre-mapped across regulations. We also support UCF and provide that for our customers. What we do during that time is we actually understand their business and start importing and integrating all of the processes, right, their documentation, policies, and whatnot into our system. So our customers can bring any framework they want and still be able to use TruOps out of the box. From there, we provide a lot of the compliance sort of workflow automation, right? And that's sort of where we differentiate, right? We're not just another GRC that's doing compliance workflow, right? We support that risk outcome, and compliance it just comes as a byproduct of it, right? If you have a good risk management program, you'll have compliance, So part of that is all sort of embedded into our system as users kind of perform their different functions, both from a GRC perspective and the integrations that they're bringing in.
Cool. Do you benefit from the third-party risk work that's being done right now, where obviously you've got very large customers? Do they push down the requirement to use TruOps to their suppliers so that they can get the same visibility?
Yeah. I mean, we would love that level of network effect, right? But really how it works is we're seeing use cases all across the board, but at the most kind of common one, it's can we use BitSet or a scorecard to be able to prioritize our list of vendors, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could use our system for assessments and whatnot. And the idea is, folks will come in on the vendor part of the equation and sort of fill out their details there. We do offer a lot of automation. So if you assess once, you kind of comply everywhere. So there's no need to have to redo the same thing over and over and over again every year, right? So that's sort of how we try to bring that level of streamlined sort of workflows and efficiencies into the system.
Beautiful. This has been great. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for introducing us to TruOps, and congratulations once again for winning the CISO Choice Award.
Thank you, Richard.
Stay tuned for more from CISO's Connect.